Welcome to the Behind the Girl Boss podcast, where every woman's journey takes center stage. Join us in this safe space as we explore the ins and outs of business, career, mental health, the music industry, and more. Whether you're a go-getter or a dream chaser, we've got stories for you. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for an exclusive backstage pass. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and entertained. Welcome to the ride. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to the podcast. So we have another guest with us and we have Katharine. So hi, Katharine.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm
It's a
excited.
gorgeous day. How are you doing?
Oh, it's rainy here, but I love that. Like it's really giving fall. It's just like a good vibe.
It's a mood.
Yeah, exactly. It just like adds to the like ambiance and everything. But do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Katharine Quinn and I work on Broadway. I started sort of in the creative space as a director and choreographer, and now I'm in marketing land. About a year ago, I started a company called And That's Showbiz, and we represent The Great Gatsby on Broadway. We do all the social media, some other parts of the business, and then we have a bunch in development. We're doing a tour. We just opened a show at the Kennedy Center. So it is like all things Broadway digital media. And then I have my own content on the side that I post under at It's Katharine Quinn.
Yes, I'm excited to dive into all that with you. But before we do that, I like to do a little hot seat segment to kind of just break the ice and know little fun facts. So the first one is if you could have dinner with anyone, past or present, who would it be?
My go-to has always been Katharine Hepburn. She was just such a
Hmm.
boss. I don't know if it's the pantsuits. I don't know if it was like the mystery or just the fact that she was a fierce actress and chose really, really interesting projects at a time that
Yeah.
like, I don't know, she was just like a boss queen. I think it would be intimidating, but fun.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100%. The next one is what's one book or podcast you recommend to everyone you meet?
Ooh. Yeah, it really depends. I go through phases where like if I'm in a therapy era, I recommend We Can Do
Yes.
Hard Things. I mean, there's like a bunch of YouTube channels that I watch religiously. I feel like have a parasocial turned real life friendship with Chelsea Callahan, who posts like
Okay.
realistic New York City vlogs. She's amazing. In terms of books, it's tricky. I'm a big investment nerd,
Love that.
so I really, really like Danielle Town's books. Yeah, but it kind of depends on like where I am,
Makes
like
sense.
what my special interest is at any given time, you know? What
Yeah.
about you?
Oh, I don't even
Sorry, didn't
know.
mean to turn it on you, but I'm
No, no,
curious.
no. I mean, okay, the book that like it's not really like anything, but the book that got me back into reading is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I feel like it's just like
Yes.
iconic read. So whenever someone's like, "Oh, like I'm in a reading slump," I kind of just say that because it's just a book that got me out of my reading slump. So I love that.
That's excellent. Have you read Old Enough?
No.
I highly recommend it. That's the most recent fiction book that I just devoured in like a weekend.
Okay, I will definitely be reading that next because I don't know. I'm in like a reading kick right now, so any recommendations
Love.
I will take.
I love that for you. That's amazing.
And then the last one is what's the one thing you can't start your day without?
Caffeine, unfortunately.
Me
It's a
too.
habit that I really should break. I don't know about you, but my relationship with caffeine has like run the gamut from like, oh my gosh, all I need is a sip of coffee. Like literally I would drink a sip just to have the taste of it and that would be enough. And I was basically off caffeine. I'm currently in an energy drink era, which is so bad. I'm not even drinking coffee because I'm finding coffee in my oldening age, which I also recognize is not a word. As I get older, I find that coffee does not do super well with me. So I'm drinking amino energy drinks. I like them because they only have 100 milligrams of caffeine as opposed to your Celsius that has like 200 milligrams of caffeine. And two shots of espresso is about 140 milligrams of caffeine. So it's like, it feels like it's of the lesser of evils, but it's
Yeah.
still not great. Are you a coffee
Oh,
girl?
yes. And every morning I have it. And I don't even know if I have it because I need it or just because like I want it at this point. Like I don't
I
even think
know,
it
it's the
does anything.
ritual.
Yes, it's just like part of the day at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely addicted to caffeine and I love the taste of coffee. So it's like a double
Me
whammy.
too. Yeah, no, 100%. So as someone who does share a lot of their life on social media and posts a lot, I like to ask people what's something that you do for fun for yourself that many people may not know that you actually do.
Hike, maybe.
Okay.
I love to hike. Being outside is like the surest way for me to get out of my own brain and just like
Mhm.
literally touch grass, you know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've been really, really bad about it lately. I've been overworking for sure, and I'm struggling a lot with burnout and work-life balance. Like right now, I have an Airbnb upstate in New York, and I am actually up here right now because there are mice. It's like mouse season, evidently, but I've never really had a mouse problem here. Anyway, I'm dealing with that right now. But that also means that I am looking at trees that are turning color and I'm in the
Yes.
mountains and it's like beautiful. And just getting out of my normal environment is like medicine for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel that, especially like being in a city like New York. I feel like just having like a little escape sometimes is just key.
Yeah, your world can get so small, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So growing up, did you always see yourself working in this field, or did you have a different path in mind for you?
No, I had no idea I was going to work in theater. Pursuing theater professionally was not the plan until I was 20 or 21 years old.
Okay.
Growing up, I loved theater. I was definitely a fangirl, but I was not the lead in the High School Musical, and I was
Mhm.
not even the best dancer in the dance company. And so it was just like, I'm 35, so the internet was not obviously what it is now, and certainly not social media. And like, I just didn't know all of the jobs that exist. There's about 80,000 jobs in the Broadway industry, which is crazy. And that's
Yeah.
between like restaurants and retail and hotels and things in the theater district, as well as people working in marketing and general management and all of those things. But that whole world, I was like, you're either the star of a Broadway show or you're not working on Broadway. So it just didn't even occur to me
Yeah.
really. My mom's a teacher. My dad was in the Navy, so it didn't feel very logical. I wanted to be a writer. I still want to write a book or books at some point. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but definitely not what has happened. What did
Yeah.
you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to, when I grew up, I was like, I'm gonna own like a record label and sign all these like
Cute.
artists. Obviously, that's not really what I want to do anymore, but that's kind of what I thought. I always knew I wanted to work in like the entertainment industry or like a business or
Mm,
something, but never really knew
entrepreneur.
exactly, yeah, what.
Love. That's awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite answer to this question of all time is my cousin. When he was like, I don't know, he had to be 3 or 4 years old. He wrote that he wanted to be a frog when he grew up. And
Honestly,
honestly, that's pretty iconic. Like,
yeah,
good for him.
I love that. I hope he gets to do that in some capacity. Can you share a little bit about your journey working in marketing and how you landed this role working with Gatsby on Broadway?
Yeah, magic and happenstance and relationships with people. Like, it's so annoying, but it's so true that relationships are everything. I
Hmm.
was working as a writing assistant on another Broadway show called Shucked that was on Broadway in 2022, 2023. Time is a mystery. And I was working with our music supervisor. I met a guy named Jason Howland. I was making my own content while I was being a writing assistant on Broadway. And I was just, showing behind the scenes and I was starting my YouTube channel and all that. And every night while we were in previews, someone inevitably would come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, I know about this show because I follow you on Instagram or I follow you on YouTube. And the creative team of this Broadway show, who were all like, 45 and up, are like,
Yeah.
Eber, what? Like, what is happening? This is weird. So then somebody who was on the team from that show was the composer of The Great Gatsby. He took me to lunch that summer and he said, hey, I want you to do on Gatsby what you did on Shucked. Like, use the special sauce of like your relationships with the cast and like understanding how to like speak to actors like real human beings, and then also like make compelling content that actually functions like the content that people on those platforms make. By that, I mean, some Broadway agencies, advertising agencies, are getting a lot better at this. But for a while, there was a real gap between people who posted on TikTok for fun and because they wanted to, and
Hmm.
people who were forced to post on TikTok because it was the next big social platform. Do you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so my content was sort of threading that needle at a time when that gap was pretty wide. And obviously, it's all changed very, very quickly just in the last even 2 years. Basically, I worked on what was referred to as the out of town production at Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey and started doing social media there. And I was not planning on going to Broadway. I was planning on handing another big, Broadway agency 50,000 followers from Instagram and 50,000 followers from TikTok and like Merry Christmas. This is what you get to
Yeah.
start your Broadway base with, which is awesome because so many Broadway shows don't really start their huge marketing efforts until they're on Broadway. But that I like to say is if you start when you're on Broadway, you're too late. You have to start those brands a lot earlier. So basically, one thing led to another. It went really well out of town. I got asked to do it on Broadway, and now I am running a marketing agency on Broadway, which is insane because
Yeah.
literally Gatsby opened 1 year ago out of town. So my business has not even been operating on Broadway for a full year yet. And it has just been like a rocket ship. It's crazy.
Yeah. And what does like a typical day in the life look like for you working on that?
A day in my life on Gatsby can be a million different things. Sometimes it's going to shoot content at the theater, which means there's all sorts of unions that protect actors and musicians and stage crew at a theater. So it means I have sent out a posting 72 hours in advance, like a memo. I've made sure that the actors are cool with when I'm coming to film. I find the space in the theater that's okay for us to film. I have a comprehensive list of all the content that we want to shoot. I try to be as cognizant of their time as humanly possible. So I like
Hmm.
try to be really efficient and clear about what it is that I'm capturing. So that some days, other days are meetings with my internal team, the broader marketing team, which is like 30-ish people brainstorming events and influencer activations and things to do with school groups, anything under the sun. So it's like the job is sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, there's like a wicked meme that's happening. We
Yeah.
should that's timely. We should create our own version of that. So it's like literally every single day is different. There's really, there's tried and true. We post 2 times a day, 6 days a week. So
Okay.
across 6 platforms. So like
That's a
72
lot.
individual touch points of content per week, which is truly kind of insane. So that is a constant. And then, weekly marketing meetings are a constant, but everything else changes like every single day.
Yeah. And when you go in to like shoot the content, how do you kind of make a plan and like know what you want to be doing?
It depends. So a week ago, we did a content party, which is maybe one of the best ideas I've ever had, if I do say so myself. We basically threw a party for the actors. They got food and drinks post show, and we just shot a ton of content. So they were in a good mood. We were
Yeah.
in a good mood. I wasn't forcing them to do extra work at work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like kind of a win-win. So for that, we literally had a ginormous spreadsheet that was like human being, name of trend or name of content that we want to capture, a reference link, and then where we could check it off. And we had like a multi-page spreadsheet where we just like, there were three of us and we just ran all over the venue. We got like portrait photographs of everyone. We got trends of people. We did Q&As. We did everything. And then on Thursday of this week, I'm going up there and I'm just shooting for like 10-15 minutes at the theater. And there's like three big things that we want to hit that we weren't able to hit at the content party. So yeah, it's just, it depends on what the shoot is, but I always try to plan as much in advance so that
Yeah.
I can respect everyone's time.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say have been some challenges so far that you faced in working in marketing for Broadway, and how have you kind of like overcome it?
I think the biggest thing is that Broadway has been operating for 100 years. It's a 100-year-old business, and
Hmm.
Broadway in general evolves very, very slowly. People mean very well, but it's also 8 out of 10 Broadway shows do not make their money back. It is not an industry that's very successful. And so there's a lot of fear because there are giant budgets and very high stakes, and the odds are pretty stacked against you. So with that comes a reticence to try new things.
Yeah.
And all I want to do is try new things. And so I think in terms of challenges, that's been the biggest thing of like either asking forgiveness or trying to explain in terms that make sense to a Gen X or boomer who is not really a digital native. This is why this is powerful. And a lot of the time, they don't really get it until they see it. And so a
Hmm.
lot of the time, it's me demonstrating proof of concept for as little money as possible, for as like little effort on everyone else's end as possible, and being like, look, see, this is what it can do. And even sometimes, while it's being made, people are like, I don't understand, but then it'll get
Yeah.
millions of views. And it's like, oh, okay, great, do more of that.
Yeah.
But it's effort for the initial buy-in for sure.
Yeah. And if someone's listening to this right now and they're also looking to possibly work in marketing in Broadway, what advice would you give to them?
Mm. I think it depends on what they want to do. If they are wanting to start their own business,
Hmm.
my advice would be very different than if they want to slot into one of the big agencies that currently exists. I have a very unconventional path. It's very weird for me to have started my own agency without having worked inside one of
Yeah.
the agencies. It's more common that you'll work within one of the big agencies, become a digital native, think outside the box. Just because Broadway isn't already doing it doesn't mean it's not a great idea.
Hmm.
Treat actors like human beings, be respectful of everyone's time, and then sort of just like general business advice is become a solution to someone's problem.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And segueing into you starting your own business, and that's showbiz, what kind of inspired you to start this? And yeah, how did you come up with the name and everything?
And that's showbiz is a lyric. I mean, showbiz, it's kind of like a showbizy phrase, but it's also a inside of a Chicago song from Chicago, the
Yes,
musical.
I saw that actually.
And
That
that's
was like my
showbiz kid.
second Broadway show I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. Love it. That's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. It's been on Broadway for like 30 years. How did I decide to start my own company? I had to. I'd had the name. I knew I wanted to do like red carpets and hosting and interview
Hmm.
shows and things like that. So I already had that title. I sort of like backdoored my way into the business.
Hmm.
This composer hired me. The actual entity that is the Great Gatsby did not hire me
Yeah.
initially. And so I did not have access to our handles. I couldn't just be a shill for Gatsby posting on my own channels at It's
Yeah.
Katharine Quinn. There were like some things that I judiciously would like post there, but I can't, my whole platform can't just become Gatsby. That would have been
Yeah.
weird for so many reasons. It wouldn't have built trust with Gatsby community or the people within my own community. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what And That's Showbiz is about to become because we don't have the Gatsby handles yet. So I started doing it with And That's Showbiz, and then I got the Gatsby handles. And so now And That's Showbiz is sort of the umbrella for both, the social media brands that I operate and
Yeah.
then some forthcoming shows that I'm producing on my own.
Mhm. And what kind of services do you offer at your company?
We do social media, organic and paid digital media. We do influencer activations and relationships and partnerships. Those are sort of the
Okay.
things right now, but we're expanding all the time. We also produce events and do art and basically anything that is not physical media right now, we have
Yeah.
our hands in.
And how do you kind of, at your company, how do you ensure that like diverse voices are uplifted through your platform?
So many different ways. First of all, it's important to me that my team in and of itself represents diverse
Yeah.
voices. Like I would say we have horrendous age diversity, but we have narrow, spicy humans, myself included. I'm autistic, I'm on the spectrum, multiple people of color, we have gender diversity. Like
Hmm.
we are representative even within our own small unit, but I think the casting of Gatsby beautifully represents like humanity in New York, which is to say it's a pretty diverse company as well. And so outside of the fact that like it's sort of built into the show, I really find that it's like super important to highlight not just actors, but also dressers and behind the scenes humans. And some of these people come from all kinds of different backgrounds, but really it's like I truly want diversity in every possible way. I want to represent differently abled people who are working in the industry because they are. I want to represent, I do need better age diversity. It's a very young group of humans that I'm currently working with, at least on my little team.
Hmm.
Racial diversity, gender diversity, all of the things. So, yeah, it's paramount. I think that you're missing out if you aren't. Like, not only is it like ethically questionable, actually, just ethically bad,
Yeah.
but also your work is not going to be as good.
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's super important.
No, I think that is important, especially like when you're like an outsider looking at someone's team, if it's all like the same race, if it's all the same, I mean, as someone who is not white, not straight, all those things, if I just don't see anyone that like looks like me, I wouldn't either one want to work with them or two like feel confident working with them. So I think, yeah, it's important to have people from like every space.
100%.
So you were talking about doing influencer activations. How do you kind of pick and choose which influencers you want to work with, and how do you find them?
I love this question so much. It depends. And it's like a very multi-layered strategy. So like we had an event at the Strand bookstore, which is an iconic New York City bookstore.
Mhm.
And we were talking about Kate Kerrigan, our book writer's adaptation of The Great Gatsby, which obviously is like a 100-year-old beloved novel.
Yeah.
So I had a content creator who hosts a show called Wait in the Wings on YouTube, speaking with Kate Kerrigan. And for that influencer at the Strand bookstore, and then all the influencers went to go see the show. But at the Strand bookstore, that was primarily theater talk and book talk. So it was like I wanted to make sure that we had both representatives from the book community as well
Yeah.
as theater creators, because it was like those are like the niches that are going to be the most interested in this particular thing that we are promoting.
Mhm.
We've had other partnerships where we're at like a super chic rooftop. And it's like we did this really amazing party with a creator called Dandy Wellington. He is amazing. He hosts the 1920s jazz band. He dresses impeccably 100% of the time. You should totally look him up. He's absolutely incredible. Historian, brilliant human. And we hosted a rooftop party with him and his band. And it was like 1920s community. Like people
Yeah.
dressed up. It was
That's so
there's a
cool.
huge community who are obsessed with like vintage culture, vintage clothing, vintage like
Yeah.
experts, historians, and they came dressed to the nines. They looked amazing. So I think it really depends. Obviously we have theater content creators, and that's sort of like they're like the core, and then you sort of build out from there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, how do you find them? Do you just like have like a list of like creators that you already follow? Do you like do searches when you have like a theme?
We definitely will do searches, but honestly, because everyone on my team is also kind of a creator in their own right, not just kind
Mm.
of. I am the only person who has not been a Broadway performer in my
Oh,
current team, and they all have their own platforms as well. So we all have creators that we love and have followed for years in all kinds of different spaces, queer creators, New York specific, like people who do New York City content, people who do theater content, all of that stuff. So we just amongst us, we have a huge database of people that we already have relationships or we love their content.
yeah.
So it definitely starts there, and we have a giant database, but then we've also run specific searches looking for creators in niches that we're not as familiar with.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about the whole entertainment industry, if anyone's listening to this now and they kind of want to break their way into it, what advice would you give to them? Because it's obviously hard. If you, like you were saying before, like networking and connections is really big in this industry. So if someone doesn't have that, what do you think that they can do to get themselves in it?
Use your platforms to make it clear who you are, what kind of work you do, and what you care about. I
Hmm.
can't tell you how much having my own content has changed and expedited my path to running a company on Broadway. So using your platform to make it clear who you are and what you believe in. I didn't do that on purpose to like build a brand to get famous on Broadway,
Yeah.
which isn't to say that I am. I am popular amongst a very hyper specific niche of humans who I adore. They're awesome. I did it because like I started making content in the middle of Broadway shut down during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I need an outlet to nerd out about this thing I love so deeply. It wasn't really for any other reason. But the random, amazing side benefit of it was people knew what I was passionate about and the questions I was asking about the industry I love and the work that I wanted to do. So that's first of all. And like even right now, I'm hiring two positions in my company. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to look at your LinkedIn. Yes, I'm going to look at your portfolio. But also, if you have a social media presence and I get a sense for the kind of human being that I'm going to be working with, I'm 1,000% looking at that as well. And it's not
Yeah.
about like, do you have a million followers? It's like, what do you have to say? How do you present yourself in the world? So that's thing number one. And thing number two is invite someone to coffee with a really specific ask. People are very, very busy, but find the person who's doing something that you think you might want to be doing, or find their assistant or find their associate and say, hey, I'm really, really interested in pursuing this. I'm a giant fan of your work. This is what I am an expert in. Can I treat you to a 20-minute Zoom or coffee in
Yeah.
person? Just be like hyper specific about how little time you're going to take, something that you might be able to offer them. And then don't go in hard with an ask. Just meet humans and begin your networking that way.
Yeah. Yeah, two things for that. The first thing, when you were talking about like your social platform and all that, I think that's so true because I have my own business as well. And people that have hired me told me that like they can like see like my personality through my content and like they know that we would vibe well. And I think that's super important.
Totally.
And then second, how you were saying like just reach out to people. I think that's super important. People are always scared of that. They're like, oh, like what if they like don't answer, whatever. But the worst thing someone can do is either not answer you or say no, and then you just like move on with your life. Like nothing bad
A
will happen.
hundred percent.
The amount of people that have just like not answered me at all, I'm like, they're busy, life happens, whatever. Like I'm not gonna dwell on it. And the amount of people that have said yes and have met up with me, like that outweighs the people that haven't. So just do it.
It can change your life. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
So, where do you see, and that's showbiz, heading in the next few years? Are there any exciting things coming up for you?
There are exciting projects in the pipeline for sure. We're starting to get more into producing as well,
Hmm.
which is really exciting, like producing shows in various stages of development. And then we're starting to produce a lot more of our own content that doesn't necessarily belong to a specific Broadway show, but that will
Yeah.
live across our platforms. And we have some super, super, super exciting stuff following that showbiz that will be coming out very, very soon.
That's exciting. As someone who's like, I don't know too much about theater. It's funny because my brother actually is in acting and just started theater and stuff. So I'm like learning a little
Amazing.
bit. But yeah, I think it's so cool. And I also have only seen two Broadway shows in my whole life. And I want to see more.
What?
I know, I know.
So Chicago and
And it was called The Minutes. It was like a smaller one.
yes,
It
I
had like
saw it.
more read. Yeah, that. I went to see that. That's it. That's all I've seen. I know. I
You
need
have
to
to
see
come see
more.
Gatsby.
I will. I'm actually in New York in November, so it's going to be on my list. I'm trying to like every time I go to New York now, I'm like I need to see like one Broadway show at least because if not, what am I doing?
You know about rush programs, right?
No.
If you rush a Broadway show, you can get super, super discounted tickets on the same day as the show. Our Rush
Okay.
for Gatsby, if you have a student ID, it's $25. If you don't, it's $40.
Okay.
And seeing a Broadway show for $40 is like the average Broadway ticket
Yeah.
price is $168. So like definitely rush. We have a huge house. So unless you're there at a really, really crazy busy time, you'll probably be able to get a seat.
Okay, perfect. I will keep that in mind. But the last part of my podcast, I asked people on Instagram to ask you questions, and I picked two of my favorite ones. So the first one is, what's your favorite Broadway show you've ever seen?
Gypsy with Patti LuPone and Laura Benanti. Tied with Sunset Boulevard, which is on Broadway newly, like right now, with Nicole Scherzinger of the Pussycat Dolls. She is unbelievable.
Yeah.
She's unbelievable. It's amazing.
Have you seen the new Romeo and Juliet yet?
No, and I want to.
Me too. I want to see that. I'm interested in seeing, I think it's called And Juliet because Charlie D'Amelio's in it, and I'm just like curious how that's
Yep.
gonna go.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know what else is on Broadway. There's like a Harry Potter one that I want to see as well. There's so
It's
many. I
fun.
didn't even know there was this many like Broadway shows, to be honest. I'm like literally
There are
don't know
41
much.
Broadway theaters.
That's wild. That's so cool.
Yes. So I think right now we have like 30 something shows up.
That's so cool. I love that. And then the last one is if you could act in any Broadway show that's on right now, which would you choose?
Honestly, either Gatsby, that ensemble track is fun. I'm not like a singer girly, so like I do not want to be out there. I want to be in the ensemble dancing.
Hmm.
So I love there's a tap sequence in Act Two in Gatsby that is so much fun. So that would be very fun. And it's just also like a big kick-ass ensemble. And then the second would be Sunset, just because I'm obsessed with all things Sunset Boulevard right now. And the choreography is amazing, but super athletic and probably beyond my degree of ability. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I love that. And that's all I had for you today. So thank you so much again for coming on and sharing all this with us. You're actually my first ever Broadway anything guest. So that's going to be very exciting.
I'm honored. Thank you for
Yes,
having me. You've
of
asked
course.
such great questions.
Thank you. If anyone wants to follow you after this or know more about your business, shout out your socials, shout out everything.
Yes, I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. At is Katharine Quinn for my own content. And then the business that I run, where we've got all kinds of crazy Broadway content, is And That's Showbiz. And then if you want to follow Gatsby, at VOA Gatsby.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Yay, thank you so much.